Today we're going to be checking out the Diamond Select Toys Ghostbusters Select Library Ghost. For those that are collecting the diorama pieces, the Library Ghost will come with one of the tower points, as well as the other Terror Dog statue. I still actually have the Terror Dog from the other Ghostbuster. I can't remember which figure it was. But I might actually even put those on their own displays, just on their own, because I'm not really actually collecting the diorama pieces for the reasons I've already indicated. I just simply don't have the space. As cool as the diorama may be, I just simply don't have the space to accommodate something that large. Kudos, though, to Diamond Select, which apparently I think they're also working on the Firehouse as a future diorama build. That would be really, really cool. And I might even consider doing that one because of the nature of, it's not going to be that wide, but you know what I mean. It's only going to be a certain width. It's going to be more higher than it's going to be wider. The rooftop simply just being so wide was difficult. It was difficult for me to accomplish getting that on a display. So that's all the reason why, and only reason why I didn't actually collect with the intent of building that. That being said, let's have a look at the Library Ghost here. She is one of the new released figures. Let's get some measurements going. I might actually have to hold her for this one. She stands at just about 5.5 inches, just a little over 5 inches tall. She's a little bit shorter because technically she doesn't really have legs. What she does, however, have is a display stand, and a display stand with an adjustable neck. The neck adjusts at the lower point, the midpoint or second knuckle, the third hinge, and the fourth, which is, all of these actually are really stiff. They're stiff and they ratchet. You can hear that there's clicking to them. But I find the areas in which I would want it to hinge at doesn't seem to be strong enough to hold the Library Ghost. There's a little peg at the back there, a little peg hole that you can go ahead and attach the adjustable neck to. You just have to really apply pressure to get it in there. But unfortunately, as you can probably see, just shy of having it completely straight, it wants to lean forward. It's almost making it too top heavy that the Library Ghost doesn't properly stand. You can kind of compensate it by bringing the stand further back where it's kind of leaning on itself. And again, just attaching it to the Library Ghost. But even then, it's tricky, I have to admit. I played around with this a couple of times prior to the review, and getting a proper lineup of how I can get her to stand, just shy of having, again, that stand completely straight. Again, it doesn't really stand the figure all that great, to be honest. Like right here, this hinge doesn't seem like it's strong enough. If this hinge was strong enough, I feel like the Library Ghost would properly levitate. What I almost think that they should have done was not have the peg here, but actually have the peg closer to here, where if, say, for example, let's say for the sense of consideration here, let's say if the hole was right here, I feel like you would properly be able to balance the weight of Library Ghost here, where she would be able to stand. Another thing that I decided to do too was make use of, just trying to remember how I did this, make use of the hinge as almost the means to support the figure. And again, if you kind of, was it like that? The base almost needs to be a little wider too. Oh, it was like that. I actually made use of the lower hinge almost as a support strut for getting the figure to stand. There we go. That's what I did. You see what I mean? Like you're almost using it like more of a chair than you are an actual stand. Maybe that's what they had in mind, but it definitely makes things a little bit more problematic to get her to properly stand up. The hinges don't seem strong enough. the base doesn't seem large enough to kind of offset the fact that you're pegging her so far up. I still would have favored pegging her right here. That seems like that would have been a more logical place to peg her. But again, there you can get her to properly somewhat stand. Again, you're kind of leaning her more against propping her up onto the stand instead. Before we look at the library ghost in further detail, let's look at the one accessory that she comes with. The accessory that she comes with is a stack of books. You don't see that every day. They've gone ahead and really done a great job of spining all the books, giving their own unique take. Even the brown books here, they've sculpted in some side spine deco to it, and they've actually gone in and looks like it's all the individual pages are sculpted there as well. As you can imagine, this is just a solid piece of plastic. You can't really do anything with it, but it's really neat that they would have incorporated something like that. Like I said, with the zombie taxi driver, what they could also have done too is given exclusives. So if you didn't get the one that had the diorama pieces, what they could have also done with the library ghost was actually have like a little small shelf to which the zombie ghost could be looking at. The library ghost. So just a little small thing that they could have also incorporated. Let's go ahead and take her off the display stand. We'll move the books to the side, and let's have a closer look at the figure. The figure actually is really nice. It could have afforded, looking at the source material, it could have afforded actually a little bit of darker color. The eyes are good, but it actually kind of looks a little slightly too pale. And, well, you know what? I'm just reaching off camera here. Let's bring the packaging once again. I've actually just ripped the clamshell open. Obviously, that's what we do to get the figure out of the packaging. But if we look at the library ghost versus the image right here, you can see that a lot of the areas that could have been black, they did not actually paint her that way. The areas, especially the eyes, I don't feel like the eyes should be this visible on the library ghost, that it actually should have been coming across more like just dark cavities of her eyes. Speckling, the darker black speckling, the areas inside the mouth where you could see the gums are blackened, the interior of the mouth is black. She comes across a little bit more like a cartoon version of the library ghost. I'm just going to put the packaging back over here on the floor. So that's one thing I would have changed slightly to her. For as much detailing as the zombie taxi driver has, I feel like she's got a great sculpt, but the paint doesn't do her nearly the service that I think she really rightfully deserves. I love the shredded aspect of the fabric that's wrapping around her arms. That's a really nice touch, as well as the ragged looking, tattered look of her dress. If you flip the figure upside down, you can kind of see the remains of what would have been her lower torso. I guess over the course of time has just dissolved itself off, or she's just decayed to the point where her lower torso, her lower half, has just basically fallen itself off. So now she's just a levitating character. The hair's done quite nice too. Is it me, or does this face kind of resemble Ron Perlman? Boy, Ron Perlman, if he was watching these videos, he would be so offended by that. It does kind of look like a little bit Ron Perlman. I would be really inclined to actually go in if I had any sort of customization abilities whatsoever. I would have gone in and probably tried to mimic how she looks in the movie. I think this is a great base, but I could have really afforded some extra paint. Again, that little bit of speckling. I would have darkened the interior of the mouth. Basically, all the areas that are red, I would have made pitch or almost close to pitch black. The nostrils, I would have done black. The areas around the eyes, I would have also done a very generous amount of black paint on the inside cavities. So maybe you didn't see necessarily the eyes as much, and instead you would have saw more just blackness, which I think this figure really needed. If I was to walk away with one thing that I would have added to this figure, just shy of the fact that the peg doesn't seem to stand or hold the figure as well as it could have, one thing I would have added, though, again, an excess amount of additional dark color, where this figure, unfortunately, I feel lacks a little bit. When we go through her posability, her head rotates left and right. It looks like it's actually on a ball joint and a hinge up and down. The shoulders hinge outward, as well as a full rotation all the way around there. She does have a bend at the elbow, a rotation in the forearm, and rotation in the hands. A slight pivot there as well for those who like pivots in their hands there. She does have not necessarily a ball joint, what looks to be a ball. Maybe there is actually. It looks like there's a line divide where there may potentially be an upper torso ball joint. I can tell you though, there's a ball joint that's attaching basically like her waist to the what would have remained her legs, or in this case, the lower half of her skirt. There, in a nutshell, is the Library Ghost. It's not perfect, I will admit that. There's a few things that kind of plague this figure, like properly being able to stand her. And I think paint could have gone certainly a long way to kind of deepen some of those really good sculpts. Great sculpt. I don't want you to misunderstand that I think the sculpt is poor. The sculpt is great, but I think the really slightly misses its mark, where if they resorted to more darker colors, I think some of those sculpts really would have showcased finer on this particular figure. Nonetheless, today we were checking out the new Diamond Select. This was the Ghostbusters Select Library Ghost. If you haven't had a chance subscribing this channel, don't be that person that says, I'll subscribe later. I'll be subscribing later. Don't be a Jimmy JJ. Subscribe today and you won't miss future videos hitting this channel. If you also are loving the Diamond Select, I should say, Diamond Select Ghostbuster figure reviews, there's a whole ton of them you can find over at the Ghostbusters Select playlist. Want to go back and check out all those older videos, you'll be able to find them there. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.